Have you ever noticed how your dog always seems to know where you are? You stand up from the couch and they're already watching. You walk into another room, and moments later, you hear paws behind you. You step outside for a minute, and somehow your dog is already waiting for your return. Most people think they know why. They assume it's affection, curiosity, or perhaps the hope of getting a treat. While those explanations can sometimes be true, they only scratch the surface. Because what makes this behavior fascinating isn't the act of following itself. It's what that behavior reveals. Imagine spending every day with someone whose presence helps you understand the world. Someone whose routines create structure, whose reactions help you determine whether something is safe or worth worrying about. For many dogs, that's exactly what their owner becomes. A source of certainty in a world full of unknowns. Dogs don't think about relationships the way humans do, but they are constantly observing, learning, recognizing patterns, trying to understand the environment around them. Over time, something remarkable happens. The person they trust becomes one of the most important pieces of information in their daily life. And once that bond grows strong enough, following you is no longer just about where you're going. It's about what your movements mean. Because every step you take may be telling your dog something about the world they share with you. And understanding that changes everything. Because what your dog is really tracking may have very little to do with your location, and far more to do with you. Most people believe their dog is simply following their movements. But many dogs are doing something much more sophisticated. They're monitoring changes, small changes, the kind most humans overlook. Your dog notices when your routine shifts, when your energy feels different, when your attention is somewhere else. What makes this possible is the amount of time dogs spend observing the people they love, not because they're trying to understand every detail of your life, but because you are one of the most important parts of their environment. Over time, they build an internal map of your habits, your daily routines, your movements around the house, your typical patterns of behavior. Most of this learning happens naturally. Day after day, your dog gathers information simply by being near you. And because they know your patterns so well, even subtle changes can become meaningful. This may explain why some dogs become unusually attentive before anyone else notices something is different. Not because they understand the situation itself, but because they understand you. They recognize when something no longer matches the pattern they've learned. And that raises an interesting question. If your dog spends so much time watching you, what are they actually using that information for? Have you ever noticed your dog looking at you before reacting to something unfamiliar? A strange sound, a visitor, an unexpected object. Many owners assume their dog is simply being cautious, but something deeper may be happening. Researchers call it social referencing. It's the tendency to look at a trusted individual for guidance when facing uncertainty. Human children do it, and evidence suggests dogs do it too. When something unusual happens, many dogs instinctively check their owner's reaction first. If you remain calm, they often relax. If you become concerned, they become more alert. Your response helps them interpret what is happening. In many situations, your dog isn't just sharing your home. They're using you to understand it. You become a reference point, a source of information about whether the world around them is safe. And as your bond grows stronger, this process becomes even more important. Without realizing it, you teach your dog how to respond to life every single day. Not only through training, but through your reactions, your confidence, your calmness, your behavior during uncertain moments. The closer they stay to you, the easier it becomes to gather the information they depend on. The easier it becomes to feel secure. But over time, following you becomes about more than understanding the world. It becomes part of a much older story, a story rooted in survival itself. To understand why dogs stay so close to humans, we need to go back thousands of years. Long before modern homes, dogs survived through cooperation. Over generations, certain animals became exceptionally skilled at living alongside people. Humans provided food, protection, shelter, predictability, and the animals that paid close attention to humans often gained an advantage. Generation after generation, this relationship grew stronger. Dogs evolved not only to live with humans, but to notice them, to understand them, to remain connected to them. This is one reason dogs are so unique. Few animals have developed such a strong tendency to monitor human behavior. Your dog isn't following you because they understand evolution, but they carry the result of that history. The instinct to stay connected, the instinct to observe, the instinct to remain aware of where important members of their social group are located. And for most dogs, you are the most important member of that group. When they follow you through the house, part of that behavior may come from something much older than habit, something shaped over thousands of years of partnership between dogs and humans. But evolution alone doesn't explain everything, because many dogs seem to need more than simply knowing their owner exists nearby. They seek something deeper, something connected to emotional comfort. And that leads to another important question. Why does knowing where you are make your dog feel so safe? There is something many owners never consider. Your dog may not always be following you because they want attention. Sometimes they follow you because your presence helps their world feel predictable. And predictability creates security. Dogs rely heavily on routine. They learn when meals happen, when walks happen, when people leave, and when they return. These patterns help them understand their environment, and you are often at the center of those patterns. Your movements create structure. Your presence creates continuity. Your routines help make sense of the day. This is why many dogs are content simply knowing where their owner is. They don't always want interaction. They don't always want play. They simply want reassurance. For some dogs, hearing your footsteps is enough. For others, seeing you nearby helps them relax. Your location becomes a quiet signal that everything is normal. Everything is okay. This may also explain why some dogs become unsettled when they cannot find you. Nothing dangerous has happened, yet uncertainty suddenly appears. The reference point they depend on is no longer visible, and uncertainty naturally creates discomfort. At its core, this behavior isn't always about attention. It's often about certainty, a need to know that the familiar rhythm of their world remains intact. But even that isn't the whole story, because many dogs stay close even when they already know exactly where you are, which suggests they're looking for something more than information, something at the very heart of the bond you share. At this point, you might think the answer is familiarity, or routine, or security, and all of those things play a role, but they don't fully explain why this behavior feels so personal. Because there are moments when your dog follows you despite needing nothing at all. No food, no play, no attention, and yet they still choose to be near you. Why? The answer may be surprisingly simple. Connection. Not physical closeness, emotional closeness. Over time, strong relationships create a sense of belonging. Humans experience this naturally. We enjoy being near people we trust, people whose presence feels comforting. Dogs appear to experience something remarkably similar. When a strong bond develops, being close becomes rewarding on its own. Not because something exciting is happening, but because the relationship itself has value. This is why so many dogs choose to rest beside their owners during quiet moments. Nothing is happening, yet they still choose proximity. That choice reveals something important. Your dog isn't always seeking activity. Sometimes they're seeking connection, a feeling that comes from sharing space with someone they trust completely. Perhaps that's why following behavior touches so many people. Because deep down, we recognize that it isn't driven by necessity. It's driven by relationship. Sometimes your dog isn't following your footsteps. They're following the feeling of being close to the person who makes them feel safest in the world. And when viewed that way, this simple behavior becomes something much more meaningful. A quiet expression of trust, a daily reminder of a bond built through countless shared moments. At the beginning of this video, we asked a simple question. Why does your dog follow you everywhere? Now the answer may look very different. Your dog isn't simply tracking your location. They're paying attention to the person who helps them understand the world. The person whose presence brings comfort. The person whose routines create stability. The person they trust most. When viewed through that lens, following behavior becomes more than a habit. It becomes a reflection of the relationship you share. A relationship built through consistency, trust, presence, and thousands of ordinary moments that slowly created something extraordinary. Perhaps that's why so many owners tell the same story. No matter where they go, their dog wants to be nearby. Not because they're expecting something, but because being close has become part of what makes them feel secure, part of what makes them feel connected, part of what makes them feel at home. Dogs don't have words for loyalty. They don't have words for trust. Yet somehow, they express those feelings through simple actions. A quiet glance, a familiar presence, a pair of paws following behind you through the house. So, the next time you hear your dog walking behind you, pause for a moment. Look beyond the behavior itself. Because maybe your dog isn't wondering where you're going. Maybe they're simply making sure the person they trust most is still there. And perhaps that has been the secret reason all along.